Welcome everyone to this early look at the Shadow and the Blade DLC, and today guys, we're going to be having a showdown between my clan Eshin, who shall be led by Deathmaster SNIKTCH, facing off against the Dwarves of the Lore Master of Sotek, coming in with that lore-friendly matchup. So apparently, in the end times, there's a little bit of a situation between THORGRIM Grudgebearer and the Deathmaster himself. So we're going to see if that can be resolved here on this battlefield. So let's go ahead and take a look at the armies and some of the new units. So here in the back, we're going to be going with a very heavy mortar core. You can see in total, we do have two groups of the Poison Wind mortars, and these guys certainly have some teeth against Dwarves. You can see here, 250 range, not the most insane damage, but they have the Poison Wind effect. So if we take a look here, you guys can see, one second here, they do, of course, do damage over time. So for example, if I'm shooting into like Ironbreakers or troops like that, the initial impact does have pretty good AP values, 65 with 48 of that being armor-piercing damage. But again, that damage over time is going to be ticking, and the longer you can kind of draw out the battle, the more damage you're going to get. So we have two of those in total, 250 range, kind of similar to Shopti Grapos. What's also cool about them is they are mortars. So for example, if you're facing off against cannons and you have some forests or things like that, you can hide on this side of the forest, shoot your mortars up and over, and mitigate the returning fire from the cannon. So definitely some cool utility depending on the map. We do also have the Avalanche Mortars. These are probably the best unit in the DLC for Skaven as far as the regular units go, and Regiments Around go, and regular units. They're basically just souped up mortars. They hit very hard. They have 400 missile damage, massive AP values. They hit like absolute trucks. Very good against Ironbreakers, elite troops, Longbeards, missile units, you name it. These guys, I think, are going to be seen in a lot of competitive play for the Skaven. So we have those, and as far as the new units go, aside from that, we have the Eshin Sorcerer with the Lore of Stealth, and let's go ahead and take a look at the spells I have here. So the Eshin Sorcerer coming in with the Black Whirlwind, which is the Vortex ability. Might not be the best against Dwarves, but I want to try it out. We do also have Armor of Darkness to give armor and missile resist, and last but not least, the Warp Stars. So we're going to be throwing some Ninja Stars. A couple Doom Flares as well to run interference, because basically I want to really saturate Sotek's army with a lot of mortar play. So I need the Doom Flares to run up and kind of distract him and allow me to get that value for my mortars. So two of those in total, a couple Slingers here in the middle to deal damage against Gyrocopters, and we do have a couple Triads. So in total we have two groups of the Eshin Triads, and though they are an anti-large troop, they still have good AP values, Weeping Blades, good mobility. So certainly not bad to include a couple against the Dwarves here. So we're going to see how these bad boys do. For our leadership, of course, it's going to be the Deathmaster. He's lurking on this side of the battlefield, his eyes fixed on THORGRIM Grudgebearer across the way. Great AP values. And yeah, I mean, in a straight up duel, THORGRIM could probably crush him, but with like some hidden run tactics, maybe he's going to be able to get a good fight for sure. He does, of course, have the snare, so he can kite a little bit, all that sort of good stuff. So that's it for my build. I do, of course, have Natty Buo Sharpshooters as well to snipe some of the leadership here. For the armies of Sotek, it's going to be Ironbreakers, Miners with blasting charges, Longbeards, a couple groups of Rangers as well with some Iron Drakes in the back. So certainly a lot of missile play coming in from this army here. And obviously, a lot of the clan Eshin units are very lightly armored. Like the Triads and stuff only have, I think, like 15 or 30 armor or something. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Yeah, 20 armor. So any sort of saturated missile play from Rangers will really karate chop those filthy rats. And that's pretty much it. He's got a Runesmith with the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, a Gyrocopter up in the sky, which is going to be quite annoying as it is already doing some damage to some of my poor slaves. So we're going to be surging in here, guys, and we're going to be taking a very comprehensive look at the mortars, trying to see what kind of damage they do. So here, we're finally in range. So I'm basically sending in Skaven slaves. I got a Deathmaster running up here to run a little bit of interference, and the Doom Wheels are also going to be pressuring the flank. I basically just need to make sure he doesn't get to my goodies super quickly. So the mortar's coming in, and they do have that spray fire mode. So these are Ironbreakers in the front, so the damage is pretty good. That's just one volley. It wasn't the most accurate. They do have the same kind of, obviously issues that mortars have. But here comes the raining fire from the other mortars as well. So raining into the Dwarven lines, and look at the damage over time. So you can see it's about, 5, 10, 15 damage per tick here, certainly doing some work. But the Ironbreakers are really getting shreked pretty bad. So against like elite builds like this, I can see it being very good against factions we're expecting like elite expensive troops. Also against high elves, I think it'll be good against like archer builds. So Doom Flares in the meantime, trying to get to the back line as well. And also, yeah, the mortar's still just annihilating those Ironbreakers. It's a very expensive mortar piece, very squishy. A couple Dwarven cannons can certainly punish it, but I would probably try and hide behind the trees. I'm not really sure how that interaction would go. So I realize he's advancing pretty quick here, so I'm going to be sneaking in with the Triads. So the Triads do have concealment bombs, so you can be really sneaky and kind of a tactical with them. We have Skaven slaves chasing off Bugman's Rangers here, and the Flayers are getting in here, but more importantly, the Triads have engaged against Dwarf Warriors. I'm not sure how this engagement would go. Dwarf Warriors will do some work, and good blasting charge play from Sotek is able to hurt the rats pretty bad. But nonetheless, maybe in a vacuum, they do okay against Dwarf Warriors. But the important thing is that the Ironbreakers are 100% dead. In the front line, we have the Warp Grinders rushing in. The Warp Grinders going to be getting their drills and getting into this Dwarven line. And they have good AP values. Low melee attack, but mainly I'm just going to use them as a tar pit in the front. And, just be trying to use the snare abilities and things like that to make sure the Dwarves, excuse me, don't get into my mortar line. The Deathmaster in the front line basically just going after the Dwarf Warriors while the Warp Grinders are kind of holding these guys in place. And it looks like, yes, Armor of Darkness is going to be used. So suddenly these Warp Grinder teams have 130 armor, 26 melee defense, and a little bit of missile resist as well. So I am able to hold here in the Deathmasters going ham. So that's the Vortex ability he has. It locks him in place. It does AoE damage. Didn't do the most because they weren't like super bunched up, but it still did some work against those infantry, which I'm quite happy with. Now, in the meantime, mortars in the back, Poison Wind mortars still raining some serious fire, and they've done good damage. The Dwarven army has taken some serious punches across the board, but now this is where things get a little bit crump. Thorgrim's coming in, we got the Duel of Duels. The Deathmaster is actually going to get ambushed by the High King, and he gets knocked over pretty hard, but here comes the Vortex. So we're going to be dropping that Vortex here in just a moment, I think. No, that's actually the Snare. Okay, that was the Snare coming in from the Deathmaster, snaring down High King Thorgrim, if I'm not mistaken. But Oath of Vengeance has been popped, so Thorgrim looking to settle some grudges here, but he's a little bit snared up. The Warp Grinders are going to pull back and re-engage here in just a moment, and certainly a lot of damage. All the mortars are still firing. One of them has taken some work, but we're getting some huge incremental damage across the board. So Deathmaster getting in there, but the Rune of Negation also helping. Oath of Vengeance still lowering his melee attack to a very low amount, but basically, I was like, all right, let's leave Deathmaster in here, see if he can survive against Thorgrim, fall back, and use the Vortex ability, because obviously the Dwarves are going to be blobbing up right here. So here it comes. The Vortex is going to be going right into that Dwarven formation and doing some damage for sure. Not like game-breaking damage, but it's certainly wearing down the Longbeards and the Dwarf Warriors and those troops here. And the Deathmaster is a little bit trapped up in the mix here, and I couldn't really get away. I had some Warp Grinders, and of course I can snare my opponent in place, but still the Dwarves have pretty good mass. High King Thorgrim just fighting in the middle of this maelstrom here, doing so much work. And Deathmaster just gets his, oh my god, he just got destroyed. Like, I didn't even see his source code was deleted from the game, so Thorgrim really showed him who was boss, and that was a pretty brutal situation. So I was able to relocate my Natty Bubo sharpshooters over here, and those guys are going to be shooting in, going against Thorgrim. Thorgrim, of course, moving with some serious purpose over here to try and get on these Doomflayers, because the Doomflayers are causing a lot of problems for the army. And my mortars, some of them have been shut down. I believe my elite mortars, the Avalanche mortars, have been shut down, but not before they took out Ironbreakers, which essentially, almost pays for themselves, and plus they put pressure on other things. But my other mortars are okay. We have 7 right here. Looks like we have 9 right here. Unfortunately, the Gyrocopters could probably dive into melee combat and do some good work here. And the Triads, I decided to send after the Runesmith, figuring that my Poison Wind mortar crew here would survive a little bit longer. And I wanted to pick off that Runesmith. So if we take a big look at the battlefield, I do have some Triads kind of in the distance running. Mortars are still dropping some hot fire here. And what's really cool about them is, like, normally mortars are very inaccurate, right? They're going to be missing, you're like missing value. But even if just the tip of the Poison Wind Globadiers does make contact here with Rangers or Longbeards, there's going to be a Poison Wind effect, meaning there's a drain. So there's like more steady value from those guys, which I find to be very, very neat. In the meantime, Iron Drake's just roasting into some of my Skaven slaves here. These guys, of course, are very beat up. And the Eshin Triads have piled in, and they're going to be going after the Runesmith. And they're getting some good damage. His armor sundered down to 60. And the Weeping Blades effect, I think, is going to have some really cool applications with, like, Slinger builds. Because, again, Slingers lack AP, but if you're able to take armor down by 50% and some other combinations, like Looming Dread from the Master Assassin, lowering missile resist, I think there's going to be some really cool combos to open those guys up. So the Runesmith here taking a bit of a beating from these AP troops. In the back, I'm just using my Doomflayers to try and clean up the Dwarven pursuit. So you can see Dwarf Warriors are chasing back here. The Eshin Sorcerer is basically just using his Ninja Stars to throw them at the at Thorgrim. It's not like an actual attack. Basically, he does have that spell, which basically just like throws a Ninja Star. We'll try and keep an eye here for a second, see if we use it. I know it's coming up soon. But yeah, using the Jezzails to try and pick off Thorgrim here. I have kind of fallen back and formed a new Helm's Deep. I really wasn't expecting the Deathmaster to be taken out that bad, but Thorgrim with Oath of Vengeance is insane. And I've noticed that Deathmaster is very, very good against things with like lower HP, like casters and things like that. And here comes a missile attack. So let's see the Ninja Star. Here they come. Damage 8. Okay, did a little bit of damage. I think I kind of missed. It might have actually juked me, but it looks like it did like 200 damage. It literally only costs like 3 or 4 winds of magic. I think it's 4. So what's cool about that is it does apply the massive map-wide debuff, the Poison Rain or Toxic Rain or whatever it's called. It's very, very good. So Thorgrim's broken here. He's got about 300 HP. Jezzails are going to be trying to finish him off because if he comes back, it's certainly quite impactful. Our mortars are falling back as well, and you can see the Dwarves do have pretty solid dominance over this part of the battlefield. I have a bunch of Skaven slaves and troops like that that are coming back who I'm going to be trying to rally, but basically, I have to secure this position here. Use the Flares to run interference, use the Jezzails to pick off the Gyrocopters, and then get these mortars back online because they still have really good ammo and could do good work against Dwarf Warriors and Longbeards and some of these other, semi-elite troops that are still here. So Flares are going to be going in. Ikit Claw lending his hand to the Deathmaster here in this battle as these guys get in there and Lawnmower down some of the Dwarf Infantry. Already, of course, a very proven competitive pick against Dwarves. Doom Flares, Wheels, things like that. More so Flares than Wheels, I think, are very, very good here. So the mortars are going to be shooting in, making contact, hopefully. And you can see they do take some serious damage on impact. That was really good. And the Poison Wind effect is going to keep going. So yeah, there's a tick of 7. It looks like it might be around like 7 or 8 per tick. And it goes for quite some time. I mean, that's no joke. Look at the ticking damage there on those Longbeards. Jezzails, of course, now that they're free of the Gyrocopter, because they did have the Eshin Sorcerer come in with his Rat Karate, Rat Jitsu there, able to get some good attacks there and fend off the Gyros. But it looks like Gyros might be coming back in. But basically, the mortars are able to just punish those Longbeards, which is very, very strong. And from here, we're going to get the Triads in position. Triads are going to be scurrying in with their anti-large halberds, and they should be able to rush in and intercept these Gyrocopters and get some really good damage. Of course, they have anti-large and armor piercing, which is quite useful. Skaven do not struggle against large things, but sometimes large things can be very scary for them. I look forward to like trying out the Triads and like the Tomb Kings matchup versus like Constructs. I feel like they'll be very good against like Tomb Scorpions and things like that. So right there, you can see that the Gyrocopter is taken out by the Eshin Triads with their anti-large, and now they're going to be surging in, and they might get fended off here, but in all honesty, they should be able to do some really good work here against the Runesmith. The Mortars, of course, truly a Skaven situation, bombing their own Skaven troops. You do have to watch out for that, because it looks like the ticking effect from the Poison Wind does actually hurt your own guys, so typically if you're going to be doing some friendly fire stuff, just make sure you have like Skaven slaves and guys like that, and you'll be all good. So here are the Flayers, still of course doing very well, are surging into the Dwarven remnants here, going after the Longbeards and this group of 70 Longbeards here, which are quite powerful. So I think at this point I was trying to like blob these guys up so I could switch the Mortars, but right now the Mortars are singing into the Bugman's Rangers, who have actually started to get some contact into my Sharpshooters, who I really wanted to keep alive here. So Doomflayer is going to be jumping in. Balance power is actually pretty even, slightly in my favor. Those Mortars still doing some really good work, and I've talked to a couple other people here in the early access who don't like him, but I actually really think there's going to be some matchups in which bringing like 1 or 2 isn't bad. You know, they're a little bit tougher to snipe than like an artillery piece, like a Plague Clock Catapult. And of course, that Poison Wind effect of the damage over time, I think, could add up, and depending on how you build your army. But it really does open up a lot of new avenues for Skaven and playstyles with all the extra Weeping Blades you have with like the Eshin units and the Triads, and of course, you know, Death Runners. I don't know if you'll see them that much, but still, they're not a bad unit. So the Dwarves do have a bit of a resurgence here coming in. The Jezzails are going to be opening up shop, going after the Longbeards. So pretty much a full health group of Longbeards, and pretty lucky for me that they kind of chased in that direction. So here come the Mortars, raining some serious fire into these guys, and the Poison Wind effect is underway. You can see there's like a bunch of leaves flying out of these guys, and the Slinger's going to be peppering into their shields as well. But basically, I'm just trying to buy time for an ambush. So I'm just trying to get behind them with the Triad. So concealment bombs is popped. These sneaky rat assassins going to be coming in, going in for the soft spot in the army, and they're revealed. But is it too late for these Dwarves? Just as the concealment bombs wear off, it looks like they're about to shoot. But then the Triads are going to get in there and should be able to do some serious damage, putting their armor down to 62, great AP values. The Longbeards do chase back, but that's exactly what I wanted, taking advantage of how quick the Triads are. 61 speed right now when they have the runaway mechanic, I believe, but I think their base is 54. Able to get in there, do a surgical strike, take something out, and also distract the Dwarven army for quite some time. So as far as the Dwarven push over here, there are some Bugman's Rangers, not sure where they went, but they do have 95 kills. Could put some hurt on my Doomflayers and some of these very beat up Triads. Thankfully I do have the Eshin Sorcerer, who's really been taking up the mantle ever since literally THORGRIM like throttled Deathmaster. He like grabbed him by the neck and just Steven Seagal neck broke him. It was pretty brutal. And again, the speed of the Eshin Triad is quite useful. Like you can pull things in, you can pull back, and it's almost like having a cycle charging unit. Oh no, but the Iron Drakes are back, roasting my rats from the back. Maybe a little bit of friendly fire, but the Longbeards can certainly take that, but nonetheless they do break after one volley. The Triads coming in, lowering the armor down to 50 here on the Longbeards, making the Slingers actually probably do a little bit more damage here. Also, the Poison Wind Mortars are out of ammunition, so at this point they're going to be jumping forward, and basically it's mainly just chasing right now. Balance of power very heavily in the favor here of Clan Eshin, as we do get a nice little jump on the Bugman's Rangers, pretty much their last bastion of power, and also the Vortex spell is going to be going down just to kind of end this one. So you can see some nice damage coming in from the Vortex, and that's going to be all she wrote. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and take a look here at the breakdown. So Deathmaster, certainly, it wasn't his best day in the sun. The first replay we put up on the channel in which he faced off against Bretonnia was more of a ample showcase of what he can do. He's certainly a blender of a lord, right? Had I gotten him to isolate the Runesmith, I should have really just been more conservative with him, kind of lurk in the shadows, wait for opportunities to go in, because he would be able to take this Runesmith down very quick, like a matter of like 10 to 20 seconds, of course, with his combat stats. But, you know, I got a little bit kind of like, I was like, you know what, the great Skaven Deathmaster here is going to go in and try and take on THORGRIM. And I was thinking that with the Vortex kind of nuking off those dwarf troops, he would be able to escape a little bit easier after that. But it wasn't so much the case. That was a pretty catastrophic mistake, but it also shows you the other side of the coin. Yes, he can do a ton of damage like you guys saw in previous replays, but also he's a bit of a glass cannon. You need to be more tactical, really go after those easy targets, use his snare to isolate things, and from there you're really going to prosper. The Eshin Sorcerer was pretty good. I think that his buffs, the Ninja Star is okay for proccing the army-wide debuff, like the 10% nerf to like all their stats and speed is very, very nice. And on top of that, having the Vortex is good, but really I think the MVP spells are the 60 armor, 20 missile resist one. Not so much in this matchup, but for example, like if you wanted to bring like a Plague Furnace and the Dwarves were targeting it with their missiles and you're cycling and constantly giving it that armor and missile resist, I think that'd be really good. But really where I think you'll be seeing this guy competitively is like bringing like 2 spells from him and then like a Summoner, just like get some summons and buffers to your army, because summons for Skaven are just so cost effective. On top of that, Poison Wind Mortars, I think, were very good. And again, I've talked to a couple people who don't really like them, but I actually think they'll have some good niche applications. The Poison Wind effect is really cool because it kind of means that, like, even if the mortars are inaccurate and miss, even if just one makes contact, it's probably going to be doing like 50, 150 damage over the ticks. I haven't really calculated it. I will be doing some testing videos to showcase them as well. But yeah, the Avalanche Mortars are just absolute beasts. They basically deleted those Ironbreakers by themselves and then went on to do damage to other targets and also forced SNIKTCH to come in and have to deal with it, because if he didn't, it would have been way worse. I think Avalanche Mortars are going to be super competitive, and I really do think you'll be seeing them a lot. Everything else was pretty standard. Jezzail is quite good against Dwarves, Doomflayer is good, Skaven Slaves are a tar pit. The Triads were really cool. I like their mobility, their hit and run potential, the fact they have stock. You can really get into a Dwarven gun line, and then when their warriors react, you can run away, concealment bomb. Like, there's a ton of like high micro, high skill cap, MLG pro, pro gamer tactics you can do with the Eshin Triads. I don't know what matchups will be super good in, but again, I think they're going to be a nice mix with Warp Grinders. The Warp Grinders I didn't use super effectively. I basically just use them as like a frontline screen to just kind of lock things in place. I don't think they're a super good pick against Dwarves per se, but the reason I brought them was mainly just to showcase like the units and show you what they looked like and how they perform on the battlefield. But really, if I were to like be in a tournament or a really different sense like that, I wouldn't have brought the Warp Grinders against Dwarves. I think Warp Grinders will be better against Bretonnia, against factions with mobile units like Chariots coming in, because you can pop it right as they come in and it locks them in place for 16 seconds, which gives Skaven plenty of time to like launch Rat Ogres or to counterfire. I think Warp Grinders are more of a battlefield control unit. And yeah, for SNIKTCH's army, it was cool. THORGRIM, of course, throttled Deathmaster Snitch here. It was pretty brutal. But yeah, I think obviously SNIKTCH and I discussed it after the game. Against Skaven, you always have to respect flares and wheels. I think just bringing a little bit more AP would have been good. Like a couple gyrocopters with brimstone guns with anti-large, or maybe bringing a couple thunders as well. I think the bow units are good, but maybe just cut like 2 rangers, cut 1 dwarf warrior, and then get a couple thunders as well to make sure you have good saturated fire against the Doom players. So very well played to the Lore Master of SNIKTCH. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Clan Eshin versus Dwarf game, this Deathmaster versus THORGRIM showdown, which again is very just calling back to the end times or forward or whatever you guys want to call it. But I think in the end times the Deathmaster, I can't. SNIKTCH will have to comment on that. If he's SNIKTCH, if you're watching this, let us know in the comment below. I don't know the actual outcome of their meeting there, but yeah, guys, hopefully you enjoyed. Stay tuned for more early access content. Going to be a lot of good stuff coming out, testing videos, Dark Elves in the near future, and yeah, just good times to come. So thanks again, guys, and take care.